With the advent of DVD, filmmakers are sometimes compelled to replace their baby's first shorn curls by gathering them up from the cutting room floor and lovingly, although not always wisely, putting them on display for all to see. Following are some scenes that were cut or significantly altered in the final version.
Firstly, I want to explain that these scenes were preserved on VHS tape. You can see time code down at the bottom.
Slow down.
That's in the process of cutting the picture. I transferred reels and time coded them as we made changes. This is a scene that was cut from the picture where Tony's hammer has been welded to the gate by Phil as a joke. If you'll recall, at the opening of the picture, there's a slight reference to this in the opening title sequence.
Very funny. Why don't you two clowns go take a house by the sea together?
Originally paying off as to the storytelling. Yeah, anyway, I lifted this for time purposes. Nice little scene, but didn't need it. Here we have one of the blue screen sequences. This was shot on a stage. See the fans blowing at his hair and clothing. All of that, of course, by the time the final images were matted together behind Frankie, disappears. Here you see the blue screen, the ladder, all of that goes away in this out-of-body sequence in the picture as Frankie is having this near-death experience. And again, this was all shot on the stage in LA. And these blank sections are actually optical shots that had not been completed yet. In this case, they were the shots of the sun, Frankie rapidly approaching the sun. So in the course of cutting the picture, you will slug for opticals that haven't been completed. And now we're back on the stage in the woods sequence. The woods was built on stage to wrap it up and out of the blue screen. That's just to give you a little feel of the blue screen. This scene precedes the porch scene and follows Frankie being presented with the bow and arrow in bed. It's the wedding scene, and Angela walks out on the porch, and here I planned on having him hear church bells in the distance, and the church bells bring him back to the memory of his wedding day. And we had a flashback to the day he married Marion.
Wait a minute, Phil. Marion. Come on. All right, just Tony. Marion. Come on.
I love this scene, and I tried as best I could to keep it in the picture, but there were two reasons why ultimately I decided it needed to go. One was it slowed down the pace considerably at this point in the storytelling. And secondly, we just had a really rough time youthening our actors, getting them to look significantly younger. To take them back this many years, as you can see, we didn't quite succeed in that regard. I just didn't feel it was believable. It wasn't the makeup artist's fault. It was just a difficult thing to achieve.
Let's go. Everybody follow us.
But conceptually, I thought it was marvelous, especially the way it ends as they all drive away and with the horns blaring. We'll hear what Angela has to say as Tony and Phil approach him on the porch. Now we're back to the present, you see. And I always imagined an orchestral, very muted, mystic kind of version of September song in the background during that wedding sequence. Reflecting Angela's thoughts.
the horns?
What was that, Al?
Must have been a wedding in town.
Still wrapped up, of course, in that memory, that very dear memory.
They charged Harold Williams with murder this morning. He's being held without bail.
This is a scene that preceded Miss Amanda appearing at Frankie's bedroom window. Sweet, quiet little scene. Angela tucking, kissing the boys goodnight. It's what he says to Mama a little later that's so significant as to his pain.
Miss Liddell wants you to call her sometime.
I'll take care of it.
That's a reference to the earlier scene with Miss Liddell in the car when she asked Frankie to have his father call her sometime. But what I liked particularly about this was this right here.
What are you doing now? I no can't sleep. Too many things. I'm afraid for you.
Why?
I don't want the sadness to come. I make you sick again.
Va bene, Mama. Va bene. Don't worry. Come on, let's go to bed.
And so we know that Angela is still suffering, has been through quite a lot, and was actually quite sick with the loss of his beloved wife.
Dear God.
But you got to keep the picture
Please bless
moving.
Mama
So this scene went.
and Papa, Gino and Dad, Mom, and all the departed souls. Please bless Melissa. Amen.
This scene was to have occurred just prior to the church scene. Frankie's getting ready to go to church. He's been rescued from the cloakroom, of course, and is recovered. And he puts on the jacket that we saw in his dream that his mother made for him. Of course, he's grown quite a bit, so you can see the sleeves are too short for his arms. Doesn't faze him. One more check. That's good. Sweet scene, but slowed things down. And this is the extended version of the ride home with the Williams family following the church scene. In this cut of this
You
sequence,
kids run along inside.
we get to find out
Naomi,
quite a bit more
You
about
can start fixing some breakfast.
what
Yes,
Maddie's
Mama.
relationship was with Frankie's mom.
I apologize for what happened back there, Maddie.
I don't blame her for feeling the way she do. My little boy's dead. Ain't nothing gonna bring him back. But my Harold didn't kill him. And he wouldn't have hurt your boy neither.
I don't believe he did.
You know, I never did get to thank your wife for the dress she made my Naomi.
She knew how grateful you were, Maddie. But she was very sick those last couple of months.
I know. I tried to come up to the hospital, but they said only the family was allowed.
That's right.
No. I know how much you loved her. It's just as much as I love my Harold.
Just as much, Maddie.
Once again, the scene was significantly pared down, primarily to help the picture pace along better.
All right, children, you may prepare for gym class.
Yeah, all right.
Frankie, do you think you feel up to gym class?
Yeah, I feel okay.
I think you should go to the library this period. Get a head start on your homework.
Okay. Had a brown nose, pizza face.
Donald, was that an apology I just overheard?
Jeez, I already got detention for the rest of my life.
Which may be over very shortly.
I'm sorry, Frankie.
Sorry for what?
Sorry for locking you in the cloakroom.
Is that all?
And, for taking your cap.
And?
And, for almost getting him killed. Oh, yeah, for almost getting you killed. Yeah. Me too. I'm really sorry.
This reference to
All right,
the Pez
children,
candy
remember to take
dispenser
your hats, your coats, and
also
your homework
happened
materials.
in
They'll be
an
cleaning
earlier
out the
scene
furnace
between the
vents the
boys
rest of the
outside the
afternoon,
school
so
before
we
Frankie
won't
gets
be
locked
coming
in the
back.
cloakroom. But that scene was pared down significantly as well. And so that reference didn't exist in the cut version of that scene of the boys in the school lawn yard prior to Frankie's being locked in the cloakroom. Again, it was the pacing of the film that was suffering. And it's always tough to lift scenes that sometimes you fall in love with them, but when they're working to the detriment of the whole, they have to go. This was a scene with Sidney Lassick that I lifted in practically in its entirety, and it's a fairly lengthy scene with Mr. Lowry, the postman. A lovely scene in its own right. I love the chemistry between them in the scene. But again, due to the pacing of the film at this point, as much as I like the scene, I felt it needed to go. But here it is for the first time on DVD.
Frankie?
Mr. Lowry.
What are you doing up there?
Oh, just thinking.
Ah. I bet I know what you're thinking of. I bet you're thinking of that weather report, huh?
Hope it's right this time. Less than 2 weeks till Christmas, and it's hardly snowed, except for once, and it melted right when it hit the ground.
Well, the first snow never sticks, Frankie. But the second snow, that's the one, Frankie. One morning you're going to wake up and part your bedroom window curtains, and there it'll be, sprawling out like a white blanket, covering the countryside.
Snow changes everything.
That it does, Frankie. That it does. You've been coming up here long?
Since my mom died.
I see. You know, Mrs. Lowry and I had our first date right here beneath this tree. Back then we called it our good luck tree. Oh, but that was way long before we got to know each other.
I call it the thinking tree, because it helps me think about things and figure stuff out. Mr. Lowry?
Huh?
Can a person die and still be alive? You know, like
the lady in white. Frankie, do you know what a legend is?
something that isn't real, but everyone wants to believe it is?
That's right. But sometimes even a legend can have a bit of truth in it. You know, Frankie, there was a woman who lived on Widow's Peak. She was a kind, sweet, gentle, loving woman. She died some years back.
What was her name?
Her name was Anne.
How did she die?
She fell from the cliffs. A very tragic thing, very sad. Since then, she's become legendary. Some people think that because of the violent nature of her death, she still walks those cliffs and is unable to rest in peace.
Did you ever see her?
Oh, no. No. And neither has anyone else, in my opinion, except in their minds. Oh, but that doesn't make her any less real. Especially to those who believe in her and who love her. Just like with your mother. Well, I guess I'd better be going. Oh, but before I do, I thought you might like to know that I dropped off that package you've been waiting for.
You did?
Uh-huh. All the way from...
Lincoln, Nebraska.
Right.
Gee, thanks, Mr. Lowry.
Hey, see ya. Right, so long.
Of all the scenes that I had to cut, this one, which follows this scene with Frankie getting his typewriter for selling his greeting cards, was the one I most missed.
What's that?
It's my new typewriter for selling all those greeting cards.
Oh, what are you going to do now?
I write stories, Ma. The best stories I've ever written. I write about you.
Me?
Yeah, and about Papa Charlie and how you're always hiding his cigarettes.
We hear the sound of Papa gurgling in the bathtub.
Oh, that's your grandfather. He locked the bedroom door inside. He wants to drown himself because I had his cigarettes.
Grandpa?
Frankie, tell your grandma to give me my cigarette, or else I'll drown myself.
Where in the sink?
No, in the bathtub.
The doctor say you're not supposed to smoke.
Sure, you don't let me smoke, but you let me drown, right?
That's right. At least you die healthy. Frankie, go get your father. Say it's time to eat. Gino, vieni a mangiare.
Wonderful scene, but again, the pacing of the picture was suffering, and so it had to go.
You know, I've been thinking. You and I still haven't tried out that new bow yet. So how about after school tomorrow, huh?
Sure.
Frankie, your dad's going through a pretty rough time right now. You just got over losing your ma. And now this had to happen.
I didn't mean to upset him.
Well, I know that. So does he. But even a guy as tough as your dad can only take so much. I'm worried about him.
Phil?
Yeah?
When you and Dad were in the war, did you ever worry about him?
Yeah, every day. And now you got me worried about you.
You know what? You're a worry wart.
Well, tomorrow, when we get together, we'll talk this thing through so that we can both stop worrying. No matter what it is, we'll work it out. Just the two of us. Okay?
Okay.
This scene was
Frankie,
to immediately
come
follow
on, I need.
Frankie's
Better get in
being
there.
scolded on the stairs in the shop to go get ready
See you
for
tomorrow.
dinner when he's trying to tell Phil what happened in the cloakroom. Lovely scene, but again, for pacing purposes, it had to go.
All smoke.
Out of the way, upwind.
That's it. That's where she lived before she committed suicide. What do you mean, committed suicide? Hey, I'd kill myself too if I had to live in a spooky joint like that. Shh. Jeez. Mr. Lowry said she fell. Mr. Lowry is a mental. She jumped. Yeah. From those cliffs over there. Yeah, my dad told me. He ought to know. He was on the search team that found her body. Why would she jump? Why would she jump? Mr. Lowry probably told her she could fly. Come on. I'm scared. Figures. Well, why are we doing this? 'Cause it's cool.
temperature.
And me too. So don't make me mad.
Yeah.
From Willow Point Falls. The grand jury hearing in the Cliffside murders was officially concluded this afternoon. District Attorney James Bartell is expecting the grand jury to hand down an indictment within the hour.
Well, I'm off to meet your brother. You pay attention to your grandma, or she'll ship you back to Sicily. Arrivederci, Mama.
Arrivederci, Phil. Bye-bye.
Listen easy. It'll be okay. She's in shock. Easy. Give us some room, will you, please? No.
This woods was all built on stage.
Make it out.
What about Maddie?
She's gonna be okay.
And her mother. How beautiful she
Once
was.
again, this scene was considerably cut down in the final version of the picture.
Much more beautiful than me. And how she loved her little girl. She lived and died for her. I wanted to die too, but they wouldn't let me. What is the good of living when all that you love is gone? Even in death, she couldn't rest. I know. I see her roaming the cliffs at night, searching for her little girl, calling out her name. Melissa. All these years, how well I've kept her for you, Anne. Her room, all her little things. I've kept them all for you, my beloved sister. It's time for you to move on. I killed him. I promised you I would, and I did. Now you can rest in peace. No need to be frightened. No more. I've killed him. See?
Here we have some more of the blue screen. These shots were alternately taken on location and on stage. You can clearly see blue screens on stage and the shots at the cottage. You can hear me screaming in the background because it was all MOS, without sound, as they say in the business, without sound. Later we matted in, of course, the waves and the cliffs below. The shots with the cottage burning in the background were actually shot location weeks prior. This mock cliff was maybe about, I'd say 12 to 15 feet wide, 16 feet tall, and those slugs were, that's what we call a slug, those inserts where there isn't an image. Those were optical shots, effect shots that were yet to be completed. Now, in the original cut, I actually had the lady stop time and bring the windmill to make the windmill cause it to turn in reverse and bring Frankie back up. And when I previewed the film with audiences, it just wasn't working. So that's why you see him coming back up the cliff there. I cut that sequence out. Decided that was going a bit too far.
Long time ago.
You don't really believe all that spooky stuff you write about, do you?
Take me home.
Now, you see, originally, this scene was going to wrap up the picture and bookend it, but I just didn't feel it was strong enough. This was essentially going to be the end of the film. As you'll recall, the adult Frankie approaches the graveyard at the beginning of the film, and I was going to bookend the picture and bring us back to this sequence, but I just felt as though it ended on a much stronger note at the cottage, with the cottage burning, and opted out.
During the course of principal photography on Lady in White in 1986 and 1987, I thought to hire someone to shoot what I considered at the time would amount to nothing more than a behind-the-scenes home movie, just for myself. Then along came DVD. Shot on VHS, and sometimes resembling the shaky camera work of Mom and Dad's 8mm home movie epics, here's a little bit of what went on.
Okay, boy, this really brings me back. As I recall, this was the first day of shooting in Lyons, New York, where we located the town square. And shot the church, exterior church and interior church scenes. It was September 29th, as I recall, 1986, when we began. And all of the extras you see milling about were local townsfolk, for the most part. Here is a local kid who also did some stunt doubling for Lucas Haas on the picture. Pretty snazzy glasses there, Frank. Russ Carpenter lining up a shot. This was our Luma crane, which allows the camera to rise without a director and cameraman attached to the crane, and you view the shot from a monitor with an electronic image being conveyed down below. Nice for a great deal more manipulation without burdening the crane or personage. Interestingly, at this past year's Academy Awards ceremony, I noticed that they awarded the creator of the Luma crane a special Oscar for technical achievement. The crane's been around for any number of years. They finally got around to giving him an award for it. Certainly, he was deserving of it. It's Russ Carpenter and myself checking out a shot, probably on playback, after we'd rolled.
Right out in front of that bridge. Yeah. And then they're going to go over the bridge.
They're going to go this way on the bridge, and then go right to the